Hey everybody, how's it going? As always, my name is Jim Reid. That's John Blevins over there, because I can remember how to point. So can
Oh,
John.
I got it on the first try.
You
I
nailed
got it
it.
on the first try.
Just gotta get the hand in the camera, and we will be all set to
Yeah,
go.
I mean, I can't do that. There we go. Got it.
Yeah, I even cut off some of you because otherwise our cameras would be so misshapen that it doesn't work. All
It's
right.
fine.
Well, we are here for episode number 3, you guys. The gates are open. Okay.
The gates are open.
Without even having to ask, there it is, right on cue. So, perfect. All right, that is the sound that the Lord of the Arena makes when he enters play. And we're going to be doing some talking about Arena today, mostly centered around how awesome I am, because I got a 12
Awesome is
win.
such a strong word, Jim.
How passable I am at Arena.
There we go. There we go.
All right. So first, though, we're going to talk about some Hearthstone news. There's some minor things, mostly just announcements. So I'll start us off with the first one and let John. He brought one to me shortly before the show, and I already forgot what it was about. So he's going to have to remember that.
It has to do with what you're talking about.
But Frodan is now kind of, from my understanding, his job title is pretty much like Hearthstone liaison. With Twitch, so he's now employed with Twitch as part of the partnership program.
Like he's partnerships, yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to be definitely looking out for Hearthstone with, on the Twitch end of things, helping make sure things go well. They get some extra sponsors from the Hearthstone community, hopefully. Yeah, so not a big topic of conversation there, but definitely something to be aware of and look for some good things. If you don't follow him on Twitter, I don't have his handle ready because I'm unprepared, but pretty easy to find, and I'm sure John can get to it quickly as well.
Yeah. But what it is worth noting is that ESL no longer has a caster.
Do you guys know any podcast hosts that might be really good at commentary?
Who have done commentary in the past? For
Literally
other games
have a portfolio. We could send somebody recordings of our awesome commentary. Although
did those get saved? I'm sure they did. Of course they did.
Honestly, no, they were uploaded to YouTube, I believe. So we could probably do that. And also we're going to be talking about some future commentary experience that I will be getting and Blevins unfortunately won't be getting, and it will be Hearthstone based, but unfortunately Blevins has to win that tournament. So he will join me in the booth, I'm sure, at the time of his exit, which will be the victory interview.
Or the 0-1 Tully's bracket.
Yes, well, the O2 drop bracket is actually the most fun place to be at tournaments.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, real quick, Frodan's Twitter handle is @Frodan. So there we have it.
Okay, so apparently there was an internet connection problem for us for a moment, but it seems to be gone. I don't know if anybody saw you cut out. There it is. So my apologies for that little internet connection problem thing right below Blevins' face. But why don't you talk a little bit about the other notification that you sent me right before the show?
Yes, actually, this ties more into what we're talking about in a second, so I can just tie that in.
Okay, well, we will let him carry on with that, and we will move on to the first topic of conversation, and that was I think there was like a regular maintenance patch recently, and it released some information to the public that we did not previously have, and that was some names and some hints and maybe some clues as to what exactly the next solo adventure would be. So I want to introduce you guys to Blackrock Mountain. John, as somebody that's never played World of Warcraft, why don't you tell them everything you know about Blackrock Mountain?
Yeah, so Blackrock Mountain is a place, and there's fire and volcanoes and awesome stuff.
Okay, so this is the part of the show where John doesn't talk for a little while because I played WoW for way too long. So yeah, Blackrock Mountain is rumored to be the next solo adventure for early April is actually when they're targeting it. So hopefully in about a month's time, we will be actually playing with new cards, new meta hype. I don't know what they do. They just keep buffing Paladin. We'll have to wait and see. And hopefully we get some cool spoilers to talk about because we have minutes to fill on the show.
Yeah,
So this picture here, it's an image of the outside of Blackrock Mountain. Not actually like an in-game screenshot like this one is. This is the inside of Blackrock Mountain, and Blackrock Mountain is the home to many raids and instances inside World of Warcraft. I'm going to name some of them now. Blackrock Depths, Molten Core, Upper Blackrock Spire, Lower Blackrock Spire, Blackwing Lair, Blackrock Caverns, and Blackwing Descent. It is basically the base of operations for the Black Dragonflight or Blackwing Dragonflight. I'm not super into lore for Warcraft, so my apologies if anybody out there is. I'm just doing my best. So, inside these instances are some of the most iconic bosses that have been inside Warcraft. So we can kind of get a hint towards maybe some of the legendary creatures if we know that it is going to be in Blackrock Mountain. The first of which is on the left there, and that would be the leader of the Black Dragonflight, Nefarian. He's been the final boss of 2 different raid instances, and I think it's relatively certain that he will be there. Also, that's Chromagus on the right. I don't know that he's necessarily so likely to be as necessary to include, but he's just kind of a goofy boss that's gotten a lot of attention. Like people, like, I don't know, there's a lot of memes out there with him and stuff like that in the Warcraft world. So just somebody, I don't know, just an example of a couple guys that look pretty sweet that are raid bosses in these instances and might therefore be legendaries. So, I don't know about you guys, but this is incredibly nostalgic for me as a WoW player. Goes back to the vanilla days when the game came out, when I was actually good at the game. And it was just a ton of fun and a lot of content. And this is where Leroy Jenkins came from. Ragnaros and Baron Geddon are both raid bosses inside Molten Core. So there's already a precedent for these legendary cards coming out of these raids and instances. And yeah, so it seems likely that this is a very likely scenario. And for the reasons I talked about as to why it might be the case, that just the nostalgia, the iconic bosses that are inside of this place. And I'd say one of the biggest reasons why it might not be Blackwing Descent, and not Blackrock Mountain, and might be maybe specifically, what is it, Blackwing Lair maybe, but is because Naxxramas was one raid. Okay, this is a group of instances and a group of raids, one of which is heavily already represented in Molten Core with, like I said, Baron Geddon, Ragnaros, Corehound. That's where those guys came from. You know, it might be a shitty card, but it was shitty trash to kill too, to be honest. So yeah, just kind of an interesting thing to talk about. It's always fun to think about the new set and what might be coming. Lots of dragons, I would expect, and lots of fire-based, maybe demons. There is definitely some demons in there. I don't have a list of all the names of the bosses in front of me, but so I could definitely see them being able to fill it out. Yeah, I don't know, John, have you read anything else about Blackrock Mountain, or?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know anything from the lore part, from the World of Warcraft part, obviously. But I think that the way that Hearthstone has worked in the past is that they put something out and they do a really good job on it, but then they also take the time to listen to what the feedback is. They listen to the player feedback. They troll the Reddit posts. I mean, troll, not as in look at them, not and actually troll them, but but they look at the Reddit posts. They look at what people say, and honestly, I think a lot of people's gripe with Naxxramas was that the regular wing bosses and fights, a lot of them were really cool, really unique. Like you had to make a specific deck to try to beat them, but the class ones were really kind of lame, except for the hunter one, which is really cool. It's like everyone's favorite one to do, the web spinner one, where your whole deck is web spinners. Like that actually makes you feel like you're playing like a mini game based on the card. Like you have nothing but web spinners. You have to win. This is really fun and cool. But the other ones kind of felt like, okay, here's a deck with the card in it. Beat this like generic boss. And like that's not. I mean, it was all right, but really, most of those I just did to get the cards. But like fighting the bosses like Kalthazad and I literally don't know the name of any of the other ones. But like fighting those guys was really cool. Making the specific deck to beat them was really cool and fun. And I think that they're going to really ramp it up in terms of the like uniqueness and the fun that they are to do. Because honestly, I think a lot of people had fun, and for a lot of the World of Warcraft players, it's probably really sweet to see these raids happen. But like me, who comes from a Magic background, who really doesn't know anything about World of Warcraft, it's like you can throw all the fluff in there. I just want the cards. But if you actually make the gameplay fun, that's going to be a lot better. Also, the most important thing, and I think a lot of people will agree with me, is the interactive environment they put in, the new board they put in. When they put in the Naxxramas board, it was sweet. The Goblins versus Gnomes board is top notch. I have only the utmost of expectations for the Blackrock Mountain one, or whatever it's called. I don't know, Big Rock Candy Mountain. I don't know.
It should be interesting. I think we can just about guarantee some form of lava pool. Yeah, I don't know.
An erupting lava pool.
It could, and there could be a volcano involved of some kind. Probably, I don't know, chains. If you remember back to the previous image, and maybe I can just bring us there. These chains, like you had to walk up them, and they were really instrumental in actually just navigating through the mountain, things like that. I don't know. It's all speculation. Who knows what they'll do with the board, but I do know that I think it's so funny that people like you exist and give a rat's ass about that.
I know. Call me Miss Havisham, but I've got great expectations. Shout out to Charles Dickens. Shout out to ninth grade. I
was going to say that
anyone who gets
completely lost.
Anyone who gets that. That's highbrow humor right there, Jim.
It was. I feel really low class. I've just decidedly low class.
We're bringing it to the top notch here. The one person that gets that is probably laughing their ass off right now.
Well, speaking of top notch, let's talk about the arena. And as we can see here, this is a screenshot of my 12-win priest run I had. What was it? It was the last day of last month. I was doing a stream where it was a lot of fun. I had so much fun doing it. I had 2 arenas side by side. On the stream and obviously on my screen, and we were just bashing games as much as we possibly could, and it was really funny how my left side screen, I don't know if I was paying more attention. We had somebody log in just to say great reference. Yeah, you saw that. Okay. So,
yes.
The one guy has been found, and his response has been registered. So all right, but anyways, yeah, so it was really fun. We had I was just losing my face off on the right side of my screen, and then on my left side I like pushed the 6 wins in the first run, and then I think I went straight into 12 on the second run, and in that time I'm like over on the other server just losing like 1-3. It was just crazy.
The 03 police were called.
They were called, but I was not arrested because I always managed to sneak out at least that one game. So we want to talk a little bit today about both arena strategy in general. I mean, not too in depth. We talked about it some in the after show last week. But in the after show, we did start to talk a little bit about, or we didn't talk about, we were asked about and knew nothing about the Lord of the Arena tournament. Kind of an interesting idea. Obviously, there's always that limited element to card games. But, John, why don't you talk to us a little bit about that event and how they ran it?
Yeah, so like you said, limited is definitely a big part of card games. I personally think, I know you disagree, that limited is the most skill testing format in any card game.
So good at opening packs.
Whether well, you've seen my Mad Bombers, so
hey, there's a Dr. Boom on my 12 win on the screen. I'm great at it too.
Whether or not that's true or not, it definitely involves a different set of skills, and I think that when I first started playing Hearthstone, I was really hoping that they would implement some sort of tournament structure or maybe like casual structure for the arena, because I personally love drafting in Magic the Gathering and even in other games. I always want to draft. I think it opens up a venue for people who don't want to spend the time and money to build a constructed deck. You don't need any cards at all. You pay your entry and you go up and you can draft. Whenever people say that they want to start the game, whether it's Magic or Hearthstone, I'm like, oh, just play either Arena or Draft, because you don't need to hold a collection, and you still get to play the game, and you still get to improve at the game. And I think when you play a limited format, it kind of boils the game down to its core elements, like card advantage, board control, tempo, all that sort of stuff kind of gets boiled down, because the cards are obviously not as good, well, except in your 12-1 Arena deck, as in Constructed. So you've really got to play. You got to play small ball. There's a lot of bunting. There's a lot of stolen bases. You're not hitting home runs like you are in Constructed. You really gotta know your fundamentals. So I think personally it's a really skill-intensive format, regardless of what game it is. And I remember, I don't know if I tweeted it or if I just thought it to myself, probably the latter. I was saying that if Hearthstone wants to push to the next level of being a professional level game, they need to implement some sort of limited structure for tournaments or for casual play. And I've heard a lot of people ask for being able to play Arena with your friends, because like if Jim and I want to say, oh, I'm better than you at Arena, well, it's like all you can really do is compare Arena wins or like the number of 12 wins you have, which is like it's all right, but I can't like build an Arena deck and challenge Jim, be like, oh, I built my deck better and I played better than you. I gotcha. The closest thing I've had to that is a format that my buddies and I play sometimes, where you just go in and you build a random deck. You just have the deck autocomplete and then you play against each other. That's the closest thing I've had to it. But even that is still not quite limited.
No, and you're worse. You're really bad at that too. I just wanted to throw that out there. You're terrible at that.
At what?
At the random card
at
format.
What form?
The random card.
We haven't
format.
even played it.
Well, maybe we'll have to tonight.
I'm great at that format. No, I have Golden Core Hounds, man.
Shit.
Oh, tip jar. Boom, gotcha. But so, long story short, too late. We're going to the Lord of the Arena tournament, where basically we had a bunch of people. I think it was 8 invited players. I've got the list here. It was Dear Nadia, Masan, Trump, Tides of Time, Hafu, Amaz, Reynad, and Forsen were invited to an 8-player tournament, double elimination, where basically what you do is you go in the arena, you build an arena deck, and you build it just like you would in a regular arena. The only stipulation is you can't pick more than 2 of a card, because right now Hearthstone doesn't have a way for you to build a custom deck with more than 2 of a card in it. So, or I guess more than 1 legendary, although the odds that you get the same legendary twice, I don't even know if they let you do it in arena. But so what they did is they had an 8-person tournament. Once you make your arena deck, you go into Constructed and you make that deck just like you would a Constructed deck, and then you play an 8-person double elimination tournament. And there's a lot of things good about this tournament and a lot of things bad. The good thing is that it kind of promotes arena. I know a lot of people that really like to just play arena, and until you get to a certain point where in your collection you really can't play Constructed past a certain level. If you don't have certain cards, you kind of reach a barrier, and then you start playing. You just get outclassed. So a lot of people like to spend their time in arena. So showcasing arena and showcasing good players playing arena against each other is really cool. I also think that this kind of shows Blizzard that we actually want to see arena be played at a different level than just playing randomly on the ladder, basically, because as we know, the difference between ladder games in Constructed and tournament games in Constructed is very, very different. The metagame and and the mind games and going the next level and bands and stuff, very, very different. So changing that in arena also showcases the depth of arena. The bad things about this tournament, and I think you'll agree here, is that it was best of one.
Yeah, that's so dumb.
It was best of one game.
I'm glad you said it, because I was going to be like, are you kidding me? So I just mana flood out and lose? I don't understand how this works.
What? In what universe is that ever what people want to see? Best of one.
How is that competitive, too?
It's not. I guess it's double elimination, and I didn't actually get a chance to catch the tournament. I just saw some coverage of it. But maybe it was a technical issue where they only had a certain amount of time and then they wanted to get it done in time, or people it's kind of hard with online tournaments because there's so many people in different regions. I know Forsen is foreign. It looks like Amaz is not in the US, and everyone else is pretty much in the US. So kind of had that weird, I'm not really sure how to address it in terms of tournament structure, where you have people in vastly different time zones playing against each other. But best of one is so stupid. It's like, oh, yep, let's variance show. To an extent that is not really conducive to having the best player win. But I guess overall, I would say I think the tournament was probably a success. And I think it's a good starting place to really project the arena format for tournament play, and hopefully for casual amongst friends play. Because I really don't understand why they don't allow you to do that. Like, why would they only allow you to play arena in the format they have? I don't know if it's a technical issue or what, but...
Well, I think the reason that you can't
want to
queue against your friends is you can abuse that. Like, I own everything, and I don't need my gold, but John needs all these cards, so why don't I give you 12 wins in a row? You know what I mean? Like,
oh, no, I don't mean like in the tournament. I mean just make a deck and play against them in a casual game.
Like an arena?
Not even to count towards your...
I don't know. I'm confused.
You just, have a... casual game, so you just have you go into casual mode and you go, I don't know, challenge your friend to an arena match, and you make your arena deck,
gotcha,
and then you play X number of games, and then when you're done playing, you exit out just like you would in your if you're playing against them in constructed, and then those decks are deleted forever. You play them in that set, and that's it.
Right, you get a best of 3 against
very
somebody.
Clean. Yeah, or it doesn't even need to be a best of whatever. You can just play as much as you want, but once you exit that, those decks are gone.
Right.
It doesn't take up deck slots because they're, for whatever reason, don't want to give us more deck slots. Too confusing to new players or something. But, all right, I think we've ranted and raved about the...
there
Lord
was
of the Arena.
I feel like there was something else I wanted to mention about it. But I think it might have... also, the way that tournament worked, once you entered the loser's bracket, you had the opportunity to redraft, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that is cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool. A good way to take out that variance that I don't like about Limited, which is that, oh, cool, I traveled 5 hours away and paid all this money to enter this sealed GP, and, oh, look, my pool's trash.
Right.
The truly great players will pull themselves out of most of those situations, to be perfectly honest with you. Some of them, yeah, and they don't always.
You can take a 5 pool. Right. If you get a 4 out of 10 pool, you're probably not day 2ing, even if you're LSV.
Right.
LSV's
going to do it because people freak out when he sits at the table across from him. But
right.
So anyways, we're also talking about Arena a little bit today because John has a new article he put out on his blog, and I will link in the description. Just go down there and check it out, and that's for the YouTube watchers. But so he put an article out, how to not suck so bad at Arena, and it's just make sure you check it out. We don't want to go too in-depth into what the content of the article is, because then why would you go read it? But he spent a lot of time on it, and we wanted to point you guys in that direction. So I don't know if there's
Yeah,
anything you
it's
want to add about it.
a lot of people. I'll just kind of gloss over. A lot of people ask me about about arena all the time, and even as and I'm sure you'll agree with this. I think if you come from a Magic background, you probably have a pretty big advantage over people who didn't. If you've never played Hearthstone before. That being said, there are a lot of things that are not intuitive necessarily in terms of playing Hearthstone that you would get from Magic. So a lot of the cards that you might think aren't that good are very good in Hearthstone. Healing, like gaining life, is way better in Hearthstone than it is in Magic. Things that heal, because you can always heal your creatures. And one thing that's really overlooked is lethal combat math. The number of times I see people attack into creatures when they could have just won is very high, much higher than it is in Magic, because in Magic you just attack, and if you have lethal damage, there's nothing you can do wrong, really. You just attack with everything, and it's lethal. In Hearthstone, all of your creatures have the option of attacking a creature or attacking the opponent. So there's a lot of times where you can just miss that. And things like tempo and board control are much more important in Hearthstone than they are in Magic. And just a lot of stuff like that. I go into much more detail into it in the article. So
yeah, tempo's a strategy in Magic, whereas it's the whole game in the arena, I feel like. In a lot of ways.
It's very hard because of the nature of how creatures work. And one other big thing. Having in Magic, you want to value in Limited, you want to value the removal almost over almost everything else. Like you pick your bombs first, and then you pick your removal, and then you pick your creatures and whatever. In Hearthstone, the spells are much, much worse than the creatures because all of your creatures are also removal. So having a good creature is much better than having a decent spell that would also do, like having a 4 power creature is much better than having a spell that does 4 damage, because the creature does the same thing but has more versatility. And cards like Chillwind Yeti, you wouldn't think that a 4/5 for 4 is a 2 for 1. That doesn't make sense intuitively from Magic, but when you realize that there's nothing that really trades with it 1 for 1, and that your opponent is always going to have to crash 2 creatures into it, or a creature and a spell, or a pump spell and a creature into it, then it starts to kind of click that, these aggressively costed minions are actually 2 for 1s, even though there's no text on the card whatsoever besides the attack and health. Yeah. So a bunch of things like that. I listed a bunch of cards that you should play around for each class. I'm sure I missed some. If you have any comments on the article, please, leave some feedback. I definitely was looking at it today before, or was it today or yesterday? Yesterday when I posted it, and I definitely just forgot to include Druid on the classes for cards to play around. So
swipe.
Swipe.
Play around swipe.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, play around swipe. Please play around swipe. So that's all I'll say about that. Check out the article. If you have any feedback, constructive feedback, positive or negative, please let me know. I am still working on my writing style and all that sort of stuff. So please, your feedback is invaluable to me. So.
All right. Well, before we move on, I just want to quickly mention that we are going to also be giving away a free classic pack again this week. Sevens won last week. He was a viewer on the live show. So we're still hoping to hear. Yes, he is watching now. So congratulations again to you, sir. Please do let us know how you opened that pack, how terrible it was. And yes,
I took all the rares out. All right, sorry.
Well, we want to open up this giveaway this week to the people that watch on YouTube. So thank you guys for tuning in and watching after the fact. What you want to do this week to enter to win the card pack is tonight, once the video uploads to YouTube, I go on to our Unleash the Podcast. I think it's right there, maybe. I went wrong. I'm so used to, I don't even think about what it is. I just go the way that you should be. But oh man, it's so bad. It's so hard. Yeah, you totally did, Sevens. Check your Twitch messages, and the code will be there. Yeah, so at Unleash the Cast, and you can see that I've retweeted an announcement, or I'm not retweeted, but tweeted an announcement for the episode with a link to it. If you retweet that tweet, it's really hard
and
to talk
follow
about
Unleash the Cast on Twitter.
Yes, and you also have to follow us. But anybody that follows us and retweets that will be entered into a random drawing that will be done at the top of next week's episode, and I will send you your code. You will have to reach out to us using either on Twitter or through the email in order to get your code, though. So we thank you guys in advance for helping us spread the word about the show and retweeting that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So now we also, this week, are going to be doing a deck tech. I think we're going to try to do one more often than not. It really depends on the topics that we have to discuss for the week. But for this week, we're going to be taking a look at Oil Rogue.
Oil Rogue.
Something I'm sure, and I'm going to put my donation to the swear jar in there now, so it can be verified that it was done. My apologies. We are making an effort to keep it a PG podcast, and Blevins has been phenomenal.
At least PG-13.
PG-13 at best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys my Oil Rogue list. It is a little different. This is not, somebody famous's list, so feel free to do some other research and find some other lists that you like. But this is what I've been playing on ladder when I've been playing this deck, because I've got to say, it's super fun.
Yeah.
But it's a combo deck based off trying to do a ton of damage in one turn with Blade Flurry and Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil. It does run the South Sea Deckhand in order to provide a haste minion to receive the buff. In order to receive the buff from Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil. And then, obviously, you get to attack with the weapon, attack with the creature, and then Blade Flurry. You're obviously usually going to, with preparation, you might be using 2 oils. You might be throwing in some deadly poisons into the mix as well. So, Druids, I'm sorry, your Ancient of War is just not big enough. It's going to die. And likely,
also,
so are you.
Saporino incoming.
Yeah, Sap is a big deal in that matchup for sure. The difference in my deck versus some of the other ones I've seen is predominantly at the very bottom of the list. You'll see I'm including Dr. Boom. I find he does a really good job in some of the controlling matchups like Warrior and Priest. He's really efficient at just pushing in that little bit of extra damage that you need in order to try to finish off the opponent. Let's be honest, look at the deck. There's nothing else that falls under BGH category. He's not necessarily going to live very often, but the bombs in conjunction with your big Blade Flurry turn usually find a way of finishing off the opponent.
Yeah.
So have you played much with this, John?
I actually have played a pretty decent amount of this, and I've also played against it a lot. So when this deck first came out, I wasn't really sure what was going on, and I was obviously playing Hunter, and I just inherently, in previous iterations of the format, Hunter is just inherently favored against Rogue because a lot of their removal is based off of pumping up a weapon and attacking creatures. That makes it so that my creatures are basically attacking them twice, and when that happens with Hunter, I can just finish the game so easily. So I'm thinking whenever I get matched up against a rogue, I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy. My hero power just destroys them. That is not quite the case for this deck. I found out from playing it, and then I eventually heard a lot of people talking about it, that this is very favored against Hunter. They have a lot of removal and a lot of board removal. Fan of Knives is just a beating. Blade Flurry is such a beating. And, I'm sitting over here. They're at like 10. I've got a bunch of creatures on the board. They've got almost nothing, and I'm at 16, and I'm basically watching a stream, talking in the chat, and I hear And I'm like, oh wow, they conceded. I'm like, wait a second, I lost. I look at the log and it's like South Sea Deckhand, Eviscerate, or Deadly Poison, Eviscerate, Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil, Prep. I'm like, what? How did? What? What? And I'm like, oh my god! And like, they even have like, they can just like pre-Tinkers and do a bunch of damage, and then Lotheb. It's like, I learned very quickly that you don't let the creature live ever. When a deck has to make the face hunter deck attack their creatures, you know it's dangerous.
Right.
Like, I can't leave a creature out. Like, it's not possible. And a lot of these decks, I see your deck is running 2 Earthen Ring, which I'm not necessarily. I don't know what the correct, the correct formulation of Earthen Rings versus anti-heal bots is, but some number of either is just devastating for Hunter. When they play anti-heal bot, they gain the 8 life, which is already a beating, but then they also still have a 3/3 creature, which I have to kill. So basically, they're gaining like 11 life at least. Because if I leave it on the board, they just Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil and destroy me.
Yeah, if there's ever a creature on the board, they're going to take advantage of an early oil and just hit you in the face with the weapon, with everything.
Right, and then Blade Flurry, and you're just blown out of the water.
Yeah, so the oils themselves are worth 6 damage apiece without the Blade Flurry. So you got 6, right. 12, 14... this is assuming the full combo, right? Like you have double prep, double oil.
No, they're 9 apiece, aren't they? They're 6 on the turn, but they're 9 over the course of 2.
Right. So with the Blade Flurry, right? So they're 9, 18 plus another 4 for each Deadly Poison, and plus 2 from the South Sea Deckhand, plus 2 more from the damage of the weapon itself. You know, if God forbid you left an Azure Drake alive, you're literally so dead it's not even funny. And then if you happen to live through that turn where they're comboing out, and if you don't Alexstrasza, you're dead because there's Eviscerates coming. You know, hell, they'll ping you down with the the SI7 agents if they really have to.
Right, and I do really like this deck inherently because I think it rewards the better player way more often than not. If I see that my opponent, like this is the tell-all here. If I'm playing Hunter and my opponent goes turn 2 as the rogue, turn 2 hero power, and then attack me, I'm like, okay, this game's over. They don't know how to play it. They're just this is the first time they picked it up. I can win here. If they go turn 2 hero power pass, I'm like, they know how to play this deck. The other decision that I didn't think was right at first, but I realized after how the matchup actually plays out that it's correct. If they sap your turn 2 minion, you're probably in trouble because that shows that they have such an understanding of the matchup that they're going to be favored in the long run.
Yeah.
I'll go turn 2 Mad Scientist, they'll go turn 2 Sap, and I'm like, at first I'm like, that's such a waste of a Sap, but then I realize Sap doesn't actually do anything against my deck, and the tempo that's lost from me is much more of a detriment to me than it is for them because they don't care about tempo. They just have the raw power to kill all my creatures. If I have to then on turn 3 play my 2-drop again, I'm missing out on a hero power, I'm missing out on 2 damage, I'm probably being inefficient with my mana, or I'm playing a 3-drop instead of playing like a 1-drop and hero power and being able to attack them. It's like such a huge blowout that intuitively, if you didn't know how the matchup actually plays out, you would never do that, or at least I wouldn't. But when you actually have an understanding for the matchup and you know how the games play out and you know exactly what you have to do, like that Sap on turn 2 is so devastating for the Hunter that it's just it's really It really rewards knowing how to play the deck, which I know that you and I also like in a deck when you can actually outplay your opponent. That
Yeah,
being said, I'm not nearly good enough with the deck at this point to be able to do these kind of moves, but having played on the opposite end of it, I've learned some.
yeah, I've got to say, not too many decks for me are a higher skill cap, I guess is the way to put it. You have to
Yeah,
practice with this deck. It's very difficult to play.
absolutely.
You have to have a decent understanding and a good feel for what you're likely to draw over the course of the next 3 turns. It can be a huge overreaction to fire a Blade Flurry too soon.
Yep.
I've played, what is this here? The math is 32 games with the deck so far. I have a just over 50% win rate with it. It's been really good at win streaks for me though, so I've been fairly happy. Like you said, great matchup against Hunter. I'm 8-4 in that matchup. All the other matchups, the sample size is too small really to declare the percentage. Like I'm 2-3 against Mage, and that's short of a sample size says to me it's probably 50-50. And once I learn the deck, I think it would probably be close to 60-40 in favor of the Rogue. Same for
yeah, it depends on the mage build, obviously.
yeah. So what it looks like we're bad against, and this is a little surprising to me, but Paladin, they pack a unique combination of heals and weapons to be able to take down your creatures. If you, God forbid, you build up too much of a creature, they'll just completely wrath your board with the equality combo.
Right.
I'm 0-2 in it. I haven't seen it a bunch. I don't know how bad the matchup is. Just not something I've been overly successful with.
Right.
And 1-1 against Priest, which I thought would be a really bad matchup, but it's not super popular right now. So even if that was true, it wouldn't necessarily matter.
Right.
Curiously, though, me and you, John, did sit down and test. I said, Demon Lock's going to be everywhere, thanks Silent Storm. It is. It's really caught on. It's actually, we talked about it previously and didn't think it was a very good ladder deck. I have to completely take that back. I've learned more about the deck, played with it more. I do think it's a very viable ladder deck. So if you are interested in that Demon Lock deck we talked about last week, please do play it. It's really strong. You will enjoy it.
Yeah, and let us know how you did with it.
Yes, and same with this oil deck. If you want to try my version, I'm sure there's some other versions from tournaments, things like that, or more normal lists that don't include Dr. Boom. I think I cut the Fan of Knives for it. I truthfully don't know definitively, and that could be part of why I've lost against Paladin.
Yeah, I think most of the lists run 2 Fan of Knives. And I think a lot of the lists are running 2 Sprints now.
I've definitely
and
seen
some lists
that.
are running Gadget Zan. Some
Auctioneer?
lists are running Shade of Naxxramas. Yeah, Gadget Zan Auctioneer.
Gotcha.
Some
All
of
right.
them
Well, for the time being, we're going to move on a little bit here, and we're going to talk about preparing for tournaments. I don't know about you guys, but I've watched a lot of them on Twitch. I've played in exactly one. I also hosted it, and then the turnout was pretty low, so we needed me to play in it to even out the numbers and make things a little better. Being the scumbag that I am, I went on to win my own tournament. Congratulations to me. But it's really, really interesting to prepare for these tournaments as as you go through them and as you research them and look into them. You need to know there's some things you have to know before going into it. And the first is, what format are we playing?
right.
I'll do my best to explain these. Last hero standing is fairly simple. You bring 3 decks, 4 decks, 5 decks, whatever you're going to bring. The tournament organizer will tell you. And they have to be unique classes. So you can't bring Zoo and Handlock. You can bring one Warlock deck, and nobody knows what it is, Zoo or Handlock, until you play with it. And then when you lose with a deck, it's eliminated and you can't play with it anymore. So then you have to go pick your next deck, play against your opponent, and try to beat that deck. He is forced to play that same deck he just beat you with. Okay? Bans are also very popular in this format, and that would be at the beginning of the round. Say you bring 4 decks. It's, first to 3 wins, best of 7, or best of 5. And you... basically, at the beginning, your opponent will say, I'm playing Pally, warrior, hunter, warlock, and you're great. I don't want to play your stupid, scummy hunter deck, so just you can't play with it.
Right.
And you get to ban it, and from the beginning, it's not a playable option for them. The conquest format, I like to think of it as the exact opposite. Okay, what this is here's my 3 decks. Okay, great. I won with one. It's eliminated. I want all my decks to be eliminated first. I want them to be. You can think of it like, I don't know, graduated, or I don't know. It's kind
of
you
got to win with everything.
Right. It's a interesting format, and I think it plays better than it sounds intuitive. You know what I think? It sounds kind of goofy when you explain it.
Yeah.
But I really like the idea of playing in it. I'll say that.
I kind of don't like it. I think it makes it promotes a different type of deck building, I guess, and a different type of strategy, a metagame strategy. You need to bring, 3 or 4 solid decks because all of them have to be able to win.
Right.
So you can't bring. It's good in that you have to bring all good decks. It's bad in the sense that you can't have that really, really niche specified sniper deck. I've got this warrior control deck because if my opponent queues up with freeze mage, boom, instant win. Even if I don't think warrior is necessarily good in the grand scheme of what my opponent has, I can have this one, ace in the hole deck to just straight up counter this deck. With the conquest, you kind of have to have a more broad scope in terms of the decks you bring, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It really kind of depends on what the tournament organizer wants to see out of the decks, I guess.
Yeah, and John kind of stopped to talk about the strategy of that format a little bit, and we should have done that with Last Hero Standing. As he said, that one kind of ace in the hole, the beat, it's a counter, okay? In Last Hero Standing, you can bring 3 counter decks to the tournament. Right. Typically, I think that's a bad strategy. What I did in my event was I brought one generic deck, and that was Paladin. That was just a good deck. I felt comfortable, like it had game against everything in the field. And then I brought 2 counters. What's my opponent doing? I'm going to go beat him. I almost leveled myself a little bit and overestimated the competition at my tournament and brought, I brought things that countered top tier meta decks. And I win round 1, and I go into round 2, and I'm playing against a guy that brought not 1 Murloc deck, but 2 Murloc decks. So thankfully, awesome. Warrior Control does what it does, and I was okay. But I had a specific matchup in mind for it when I brought it, and it was specifically tuned for a control or a mid-range type matchup. I can't remember exactly what it was, because I also had Handlock as well.
Right.
So that's kind of, to me, the Handlock was the anti-control, so the Warrior was the anti-creature deck, obviously.
Right.
Anyways, so moving on, we'll talk a little bit about the ESL tournament and the format that they used for that. I don't know that there's a name for the format.
The best one. The ESL tournament. No, I lied. This isn't the one that I personally like. I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it's called. It's probably the ESL specified one. I don't know. There's no name for it.
But what they do in their events is they say, everybody brings 3 decks. Great. Okay, now, before game 1, here's what your opponent's playing. Pick the order that you're going to play your 3 decks in right away. So, in my situation, I would have said Pally, Warrior, Handlock. And then, let's say I win all 3 games. Great, I'm the winner, we move on. But if I don't win all 3 games, if I'm playing against John and he steals game 2, and we have to go into game 4... I get to blind pick, we blind pick. He doesn't know, I don't know what he's going to play. He doesn't know what I'm going to play, but we choose one of our 3 decks and go into the battle. And then the same thing for round 5, if it's needed. Nobody knows what they're playing. And that was what was so interesting. Last week we talked about the Demon Lock deck from Silent Storm. And it was... Nobody knew what it was. They assumed it wasn't that good, but it was, you know what I mean? It was just interesting. And he's like, I have fun playing it. I don't care what his lineup is. I don't care what he thinks he's going to do. He's going to have to beat my Mal'Ganis and my Lord Juraxis, and I'm going to Void Caller him into play and take that. And he just swept. Obviously, if you're in that situation, you didn't lose. You know, like at most you can lose once in the blind pick stage. So he did not lose often with that Warlock deck. He gave the people what they wanted. The viewers were like so enthralled. It was the funnest thing to watch. I haven't had so much fun watching a Hearthstone tournament because he just kept going back to that casual well that he was stuck in.
Yep.
The last format we're going to talk about, and John, it sounds like you said it's your playing it.
Yeah, I like
the coup format from Amaz's Pinnacle events.
Yep. So it's kind of like the Last Hero Standing style, where once your deck is dead, it's dead. I'm pretty sure of that. Yeah.
I believe so.
So it's the best 3 out of 5 or whatever, or however, whatever the number predetermined is. And instead of doing the ban phases at the beginning of the round, you get to you pick your deck. So say I'm playing a freeze mage deck in the first round, and my opponent queues up a warrior. Well, what you get to do is you get to see your opening hand, and then if before the time runs out on your opening hand, before you take a mulligan, you can be like, this hand's not good enough, or this matchup is really bad. Yeah, I'm just gonna coup it. You concede the match, or you say coup or whatever. I don't know how they technically do it.
Concede inside mulligans.
You concede inside the mulligans, and you basically get a win for that deck, and your opponent can't. That deck is couped. It's destroyed. They can't play it anymore. It's almost exactly like the ban phase, except you get to make the decision at any time. So what you could do theoretically is you could just be like, I'm just going to save my coup. Just play your matches, and if you win the first 3 or whatever, well, you can just automatically coup the last one. You get a free win, and that's the end of it. You know, I think it's more interesting than the other format because with the ban format, you are basing your ban solely on what you think the matchup is in the nebulous, the abstract of the matchup. So, say I'm playing Hunter, my opponent plays Rogue. It's like, well, I don't want to play against my opponent's Rogue deck, so I'm going to ban it beforehand. Well, if in the coup format, if I'm playing Hunter and I get paired up against Rogue, I can be like, oh man, this hand is insane. Yeah, I'm just gonna get there with it, and I can be like, I'm gonna save my coup for something else. I'm going for it, and then you can still win because, most people know even if the matchup is really bad, you still have that chance. If you have a really good opening hand, you can still win the match. So you get to actually see your opening hand, and if it's good, you can keep it. If not, you still get the chance to ban, just like you would before. I think it adds a little bit more play to the meta game of it. You get the chance to really show off more skills. Like if you know these cards are really important and you get them in your opening hand, you can be like, yeah, I'm going to try it. I think it's almost exactly the same as the Last Hero Standing, but it adds a little bit more spice to it from A, playing the format, and B, watching it. I think it's really kind of interesting to be like, oh, is he going to coup here? Should he coup? I think he should coup. Oh, he's not going to coup. Oh, he's going to play it. Wow, I can't believe it. I think it adds a little more. It just adds more to it without really detracting anything. I don't think so. That's cool.
I think it's super interesting. Like you said, it adds kind of another level to it. I thought the best usage of it, and what I think is so cool about Hearthstone tournaments is based on what's going on with the meta, you can choose what format you want. So, you think of the old format or the old meta game, right, where Undertaker was broken and in every single Hunter deck and every deck was Hunter. You could say lead off with Warrior, okay, which was theoretically a good matchup if you had the Fiery War Axe. So you could look at your mulligan and say, no Fiery War Axe, ship them, no Fiery War Axe, coup, and get out of it.
I don't actually think you get to do any mulliganing. I don't think you get to mulligan cards.
That very well may be, but I don't know that you can concede without exiting the game before you do. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I think that's what it would come down to.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think that you can. I don't know, but regardless.
Yeah, and I have no experience with the ESL format or the coup format, so I think it's, the ESL format's pretty straightforward. When you get to the blind picks, you're saying, what do I think my opponent is most likely to play? What's my best matchup against that? How likely is he to be doing the same thing? What is he going to be thinking I'm going to be countering him with? You know what I mean? Like, so it's how many levels of Inception do you want to go with it? Is how many times you want to try to think through the iterations and figure out what your opponent's going to play. Or, maybe it's just something like Hunter that's just, running hot for him or you don't think they have many good matchups, so they just play the most aggressive deck hoping to kill you ASAP. Just there's a lot of different ways to enter the tournament, and I think the main two are you're looking to counter decks specifically, or you're looking to just play generically good matchups. When I went in, like I said, I had 2 counter decks, but it was very important to me that all 3 of my decks were capable of 3-0ing my opponent. So I didn't want to take something like Freeze Mage, which could just get paired up against Hunter, or Warrior, which was popular, and then you just lose. I expected most people, at least half the field, to bring a Warrior deck, so something like Freeze Mage was disqualified for me. Yeah, I just thought it was important. I didn't want to be stuck with, I played my, I want to lead off with my generally best deck overall, I feel like. So that's probably your best chance to 3-0, but, like I said, it was important that I have the capability of, there's no deck Warrior Control can't draw against and do well against. So it was, same with Handlock, like 8/8s on turn 4. I guess I win.
You've got a chance to beat everything with that.
Right. So part of the reason we're talking about this so much is that this is, and I mentioned it earlier, this is the tournament that I'm hosting down in Erie, Pennsylvania at GameCore. It is a $300 cash first prize tournament. We had, like I said, we did one earlier in the year. It was, I want to say, probably December.
A few months ago. Yeah.
Or maybe November. Anyways.
A couple months ago.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. And there wasn't a big turnout, but I was trying to, I scheduled it so early because I was so nervous about asking people to bring computers, and I'm an IT guy, so the nightmare that was bound to happen with that was so large in my head that, hey, here's the Wi-Fi password. You can't log in. Well, you should have brought a computer that works. Why is it that more difficult than that? I don't know. But that's the reality of it, is people aren't bringing machines they don't know how to use and that don't work. So now we're putting it's at noon o'clock. It's running almost parallel with the Magic tournament. So if you're thinking about driving out and you're in the Northeast and you've got some Magic buddies that maybe want to come share the gas with you, there's a PPTQ. I think that's what they're called these days. Down there that same day. Pre-TQ. Sorry.
That's what we call them.
I missed
and I've got to
days.
say.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I've got to say, from not being sponsored by GameCore, not really having anything to do with GameCore officially, that the place is awesome and that the tournaments are awesome. I've gone to a number of the events for Magic. Jim and I casted their official PTQ proper.
Yes.
Geez, how long ago was that? Was that 2 years?
It was like a million years ago.
It was a while ago. It was a while ago, but it was a blast. And, John from GameCore really has a sweet store there. The venue's awesome. Everything about it is awesome. And,
And John hasn't even seen it with the PCs set up in the store now, too. So,
wow. Yeah. I haven't seen anything from the update. No,
he's transitioning to a full-blown LAN center inside the location. Right now, the computers are passable-ish. Okay, Hearthstone requires no computing power. So if you need to rent a machine for this tournament, you're too lazy to bring one, don't have a laptop, call the store. They will rent you one for the day. I apologize. I just have no idea what that would cost you.
iPad. I've got an iPad.
But John was absolutely correct. The place is incredible. I love that store so much. I am, however, super tainted, as I've worked there and I'm really good friends with the owner. And so even if it wasn't true, I'd say it anyways. But all I'll tell you is that the reason I'm such good friends with John is because I fell in love with his store first. I didn't meet him before I walked in and won his 4 Snapcaster Mage tournament. And then he's like, I guess I should know who this kid is, because he just, I brought blue-white illusions before it was cool. And just ran the tournament. And so that was how I met John. He's like, oh, so where'd you come up? Where was this deck? Like, I love this thing. I saw it like 20 minutes before the event started, and here you are playing it for 3 weeks already, knew the ins and outs of it. So that was kind of how we started talking, and been great friends with him. I'm helping him expand as an IT guy. I'm helping him expand into that LAN center and really trying to assist him with that stuff. So please do support them. If you don't know about them, check them out.
It is criminal that their events don't get more people. I don't understand, like the events that they have. The game course like open series that they had before was sweet, and I actually had a number of guys go up for Magic and go to the series they were running a few years ago, and a bunch of their like win power events were just insane value, and just insanely fun, awesome tournaments. Really great venue.
And the Hearthstone tournament, again, that is the 28th of this month. It will be commentated and broadcast on their Twitch page. So I put the link right there. I'll probably put it in the description as well. Please go check it out. Yep. I really hope to see some familiar faces there, as it's always more fun with an active chat.
I will be there.
We've moved past the hour mark here, so we're going to push through and talk about our streamer spotlight for this episode. This is somebody John found, somebody that's in the Mackenzie's network of streamers.
Yeah.
We were successful in not having them sponsored out from under us the day before the podcast.
Yes. Got there.
So, John, I will let you introduce our spotlight today.
Yes. So our spotlight today is his Twitch name is so weird. It is LP Fan 4 Life 01. That is his Twitch name. We'll put the link in the description.
No E in life if you're listening only and can't see the screen. Yeah.
LP Fan, the number 4 LIF01, and that's twitch.tv/that. He's a guy. His name's Raphael. He's 25 years old. He's a really great player, 7X Legend player. So better than us scrubs, at least in terms of the number of times he's gotten Legend.
From Long Island,
headphone. From Long Island. Well, we don't need to mention that. We're only mentioning positive things, Jim. But no, I randomly saw him. I think Mackenzie's was hosting him when he was doing his 24-hour cast, which is always a marvel in and of itself to do a 24-hour cast.
Oh.
And I actually the mech Warlock deck that I was crushing you with, I stole from him. He was playing it, and he's like, Mech Warlock. I'm like, what is this? And it's like Mech Warlock Zoo, and I'm like, oh, I'm taking this. I gotta play this, and it is sweet. A small aside about that deck, I don't think it's necessarily that good, but the best feeling about that deck by a wide margin, besides the Blingtron 3000 that is in it, is every single time on turn 3 when your opponent plays the naked BGH because they thought you were playing Handlock is just priceless. Every single time. It's like, the deck might not be inherently that good, but the fact that your opponent always keeps the BGH because they think it's Handlock is just beyond priceless. Or Demon Lock. Like, it's fantastic when like your opponent, like, you play the turn 1 like Cogmaster, and you can just hear the opponents going, oh, what is this? And like looking at the BGH just sitting in their hand, rotting away, just like, oh, it's such a great feeling. But yeah, I checked out his stream. He's a really great guy. Check him out. We'll link his Twitch in the channel, in the YouTube description. The one kind of funny thing, and this is probably more embarrassing for him, but I'm going to say it anyway. When I was watching, he tried, it's a struggle for Twitch streamers. You got to put in a lot of hours, and you got to make do with what you've got. And he's streaming, and his mom comes in and is telling him to take out the garbage, and he's just trying to be as calm and polite to his mom as possible, but she's pestering him. She's like, "You gotta take out the garbage." She's like, "Okay, Mama, I'll get it for you. It's only 10 o'clock or whatever." And he's doing the 24-hour stream. He's like, "It's only 10 o'clock. I'll get it out." And she's like, and he's trying to keep his calm on the stream, but also politely tell his mom to get off the stream because he's doing a 24-hour stream. And I'm just laughing my ass off watching him do this, and it was great. It sold it for me. At that point, really, and the Mech Warlock deck, Blingtron and Warlock is insane. I'm not 100% sure on his schedule. I haven't seen him a ton. I know he was live last night, which would be Tuesday night for those watching on YouTube. But definitely check him out, give him a follow. If you get the chance, tell him that we sent him here, and spread the support. Streamer Spotlight. So yeah, he's our streamer spotlight, and a well-deserved spotlight that is. So if you guys have any suggestions for the streamer spotlight, as you know, we're looking for someone to spotlight every week, preferably someone who doesn't have a subscriber button. We're trying to kind of do the grassroots thing. People who have the subscriber button usually already have the press, because if they didn't, they wouldn't have the subscriber button. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah. So, also please have them be English speaking. I don't know about Jim, but I don't really speak any other languages, so it's tough for me to give an honest review in support of someone who doesn't speak English. Sadly, I'm sure there are plenty of streamers who don't speak English that are great, but I don't have too much of an interest in them, sadly. So.
You can always buy us a Rosetta Stone for their language, so we can verify that.
Yeah, if you want to donate a Rosetta Stone for a certain language, I will definitely promise to think about taking the time to learn a new language.
If you send me Russian, I'll do it.
Yeah, I'll learn Russian. I'll snap off Russian. Actually, let's just move in on that. The tip jar is officially going to
Rosetta Stone for Russian. We'd have so many streams to spotlight if we did Russian ones.
I know, it's true. Right. And also, real quick, thank you to Mackenzie's for the suggestion for the streamer spotlight. So, yeah, yes, she was our first streamer spotlight.
And also, she mentioned us on her stream. She was just a really good sport. Seemed to be really happy with the
and
press.
If any of you guys are from her, thank you for tuning in. The support is much appreciated.
Okay, so now's the part of the show where, unfortunately, we're getting towards the end. So if anybody in Twitch chat has a question, please post it. This is the time to answer them. If it's a goofy question, we'll get to it in the after show. But I do want to talk about some things. So John has some ideas in the works, and he runs them by me as a filter. He's also got some absurd talents, right? He just, for no reason whatsoever, can impersonate the stupidest things on the planet immediately, super well. I heard it once. I remember what he said, and I can say it for the rest of my life. So he wants to do. He's really into the Hearthstone sounds. What do they say when they come into play? What do they say when they're
100% my favorite thing about Hearthstone.
Yes,
not close.
It's just the sounds. So he wants to do a tournament bracket for the sounds of the game. So we're talking about the light shall burn you. No time for games.
Put your face in the light.
Yeah, you do them. I'm terrible at it. So we're at some point, we just want to get you guys ready for it, and we're going to be hyping it a little bit each week. So if you have any of your favorite sounds, please feel free to email them to us so that we can find them at a later date when we actually get around to setting it up. And we'll be happy to make sure we include them. We'll probably get it down to 32 sounds or something like that, or 64.
Yeah, I'm thinking goblins versus gnomes on one half of the bracket and base set on the other side, to have kind of the conferences duel against each other.
Hell yeah, you have the best ideas.
I got it's all up here. It's all up here.
You got to figure out where Nax goes. It'll probably have to get thrown into the GVG side, so that way the numbers even out.
Yeah.
It depends on where all the good sounds
yeah.
are, to be honest with you. So what we're going to do to showcase his absurd talents and get you guys ready for it is we're going to do a little Stump the Blevins segment.
I'm nervous. I'm so nervous.
Here's what we're going to do is I'm going to start off easy on him this week. Okay, I'm not going to give him anything crazy because he only knows the playable ones, the cards he hears hit the board a few times, you know.
Yeah.
He doesn't have literally every sound in the game memorized, but it's his goal now. He has to get there. So,
it is my goal.
I'm going to start him off with 2 a week. We'll see if it gets any better than that. And for now, we'll just do enters the battlefield. But eventually, I'm going to be like, this guy attacks. So what's he say? And he's going to just spit it off right away. So here's how it's going to go. John, I cast Sludge Belcher.
Tubs feel funny.
All right, and I play a mad scientist.
I know this one. Why can't I think of it?
I can't stump you the first time.
It's so easy. I'm blanking. Oh man, I'm gonna kill myself. It's so easy.
Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the segment because it lasted 1 week. I am the
lasted 1 week.
I am the champion of Stump the Blevins.
For science!
Okay.
Is that it?
He got it eventually. I feel like he looked it up because I can't see a screen.
No, I actually didn't look it up. Gotcha. My hands are right here. I didn't look it up. I did get it.
But I got to say, in the spirit of the game, it took him too long, so the first round goes to me.
It did.
I'm 1-0.
Whoa, 1-1. We'll give it 1-1. 1-1.
Oh, man. It's Stump the Blevins. It's not... I don't know.
It's not how many
we'll discuss it. It's either 1-1 or 1-0 me. But either way, you can tell he spends way too much time repeating and thinking about what these guys say when they hit the battlefield. All right, I think that's it for the main episode here this week, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. I saw a ton of traffic going through the Twitch chat. So far, this is the 3rd episode, but the YouTube viewers go up every time. We've gotten more subscribers every time. So the feedback's still been good, and we're going to keep bringing these to you every Wednesday at 7.
Yes. So, I don't want to... I mean, stay for the after show, but this is our town, scrub. Yeah! Beat it!
All right, well, we will catch you guys next week. And don't forget, retweet the announcement of the episode on Twitter and follow at Unleash the Cast, and you could be opening a free pack next week. Have a good one, guys.
See you next week, guys.